Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about what's called an LFI or local file inclusion. Local file inclusion is just a vulnerability that allows attackers to access files on a server by manipulating file paths. Now, if it is exploited successfully, LFI can lead to reading sensitive files, like it could be etc password or etc shadow or config.yml, or leaking source code of the web application, receiving logs and credential files depending on what's on the server, and potentially it could also lead to remote code execution. Now, on this PinewoodStore app, I have actually introduced a new internal page that does have an LFI vulnerability. First off, we can take a look at the demo of how the vulnerability is exploited. All right, let me go ahead and log in. All right, I'm logged in. Let me go to the message board. Now, this is the application that has a vulnerability. As you can see, it's just, you can think of it as an application where teams can communicate and send a message on like a message board. So let me go ahead and all right, let me post this message and basically get a message from the board as well. Somebody else left a message and you can read it. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on in the back end. Let me clear this so we can start over again. Fresh, get the message. Send a repeater. So basically, if you look at this request, what it is doing is actually, first off, when you post a message, it's sending it to, it's doing a post message and actually saving the message on a text file. And when you're actually trying to get a message or click on the get message, it's reading off a text file. So what we're going to try to do, we're going to try to see if we can manipulate a file path and try to see if we can get some kind of system file. If we can, what that means is this is actually an application vulnerable to LFI, local file inclusion vulnerability. So I'm going to start off now. Just to demonstrate this, what I did is I actually deployed the application. I packaged it as a jar file, and it is actually deployed on this VM. All right, this is deployed on this VM. The application is running. What we're going to try to do, what we are doing right now is accessing it through an IP address. That way, we can. This would be a lot kind of more realistic because accessing a file that you're already on a VM is just it's not doesn't actually show the realistic effects of what this vulnerability can do. Right now I'm actually on a Windows system, so I'm gonna try to see if I can get access to the local files on this Linux Ubuntu VM. So now each time when you're doing LFI, you're basically manipulating the file path, right? You're doing some level of directory traversal. So this would actually basically means dot dot slash means you're going back a folder. Now since let's assume I don't know where how far back I need to go. So in a situation like that, if you're testing a real application, what you do is just test. Obviously, you're gonna first thing you test. You can do a lot of times. That's what when you pen testing. That's the first file that you test to see if you have access to it. So this obviously you're gonna get 404, and you're gonna try to see if you can go a folder back again, second folder. Let's go back again. All right, so it looks like this application has a vulnerability, local file inclusion. I'm able to retrieve that. And obviously, once you get this, you know where it is. You can actually go back and let's say you can still get more files. All right, so retrieve that. Let's see shadow. Now let's go back and take a look at the source code. Now this is a vulnerable source code. I can actually open it. We can take a look. And this is what it does when you're doing as a controller. It's basically the application is using Spring Boot controller and doing GET request and concatenating the file name with the base directory and retrieving the file. So first thing is, why is this code vulnerable? Obviously, user input file name is not validated. There's no input validation. The second thing is concatenating base directory with a file name allows attackers to break out of intended directory, honestly. So that's a bad coding. No access restriction, meaning if you set up a proper access restriction, you can set it up in a way where the application can have certain access, and you can set up a role. So let's say a root, somebody who has access level as the application level would not be able to access certain files, like system files. Now, this is basically on my blog post, and this is what we demonstrated, etc password. And there is a lot of stuff that you can do depending on what the application is. You can look at the app log or something like that. Now let's go talk about how can you fix it. First thing obviously is validate user input. You can also define an allow list, an array allow list, and kind of like restrict only, the user can actually restrict only access only those specific files. The other one is restrict directory access. You can use a path normalization functions to actually get this done. And also the third one you can use secure file APIs that are actually out there and make sure that this vulnerability is not exploited. All right, thank you for listening. This is all I have shared, and I'll also share this video on my blog post. Thank you.